have taken over this channel. And as we continue to guide you through the lands of night, we see how the darkness can manipulate the desperate and change prophecy.
Goose Father, a Prophecy by StoryMan-Jack. Cletus paced back and forth through Randy's living room. Come on now, boy. You're gonna wear a hole in my rug. Cletus stopped and looked at his uncle and grunted in amusement. The holes were already in that rug. He looked around. Couldn't you at least have cleaned up? Randy was about to protest when his mother, Irma, came out of his little guest bathroom. Now, Randy, just why the hell you got a motor in the bathtub? She asked. Randy stopped, forgetting he was about to point out to his nephew, and turned to his mother. It isn't a motor, it's a tranny, and I'm working on it so I can get that van back on the road. Look, Cletus said, this is a big deal for me, Randy. Randy leaned back in his old worn recliner, so old that the felt had worn down smooth. Listen, Jimothy, before I lost my dear wife, Randy said, crossing himself, God bless her soul, he murmured, we made sure that the one rule we had was not to fight about money. Randy, his mother scolded him, Donna Jo didn't die. You have to stop saying that. Randy's eyes grew hard. Well, she's dead to me, he said. This isn't helping, Cletus said. And Uncle Randy, for the silent time, my name's not... He cut off as the sound of a loud engine interrupted him from the junk-cluttered driveway. She's here. Sweat popped out and began to stream down his forehead. Go in the bathroom and get yourself cleaned up and calm down, Irma told the boy. You'll terrify the poor girl. Then she turned on Randy, even as his best friend Dave came in from the grill out on the back patio through the sliding glass doors of the double-wide trailer. And no talk about damn zombies. I'll not have you making an idiot of yourselves. This is the boy's day. Oh, Mama. I ain't gonna say nothing, Randy assured her. I'll be drinking beer and eating brisket. You ain't drinking beer unless it's the rest of that you bought for the fishing trip you never finished. I'll not have you wasting... She continued scolding, shaking her finger at her son and his friend, who stood dumbfounded with a barbecue-smeared apron wrapped around his robust waist. You do just that. I'm tired of explaining away why you boys are nuttier than squirrel shit, she grumbled. The ladies at church are all chittering about how you might need an intervention. Okay, we won't say nothing about it. Randy held up his hands. And I can't drink that devil's water, Mama. Bad things always happen. Are you listening to yourself? She stopped as a knock came at the door. Too late, Mama, Randy told her. She already heard everything you just said. This ain't one of them newfangled modular homes like you got. This is a good old-fashioned American-built trailer, he said, stomping his foot on the floor, though he did eye it as if he was afraid that his foot might accidentally go through it. Cletus came out of the bathroom, his hair wet, as well as his shirt. While Dave, Irma, and Randy watched, dumbfounded, he stumbled to the door, swung it open as if he expected demons from hell to be waiting beyond, and fell to his knees and stammered, Charity, I love... Would you... Well, here. He held out an open black box. Inside lay a shiny silver band with an engagement ring. A large diamond on a raised princess-cut setting. Charity, her bright, almost glowing fake red hair, swinging about her slim yet bare shoulders and brushing the black leather tube top that barely held her attributes in. Her black leather pants matched the top, tight yet highlighting the girl's almost unnatural hourglass form. Hun, she said, I have to hurry back to work. Randy, eyes bulging, seemingly frozen in place, asked, this is your girl? Jimothy? My name's not... He began, then stopped, shaking his head, finally looked up at the beautiful girl. This is my Charity. Tears in her eyes, the girl stood, shocked, face pale. Cletus, she tried, but her nerve broke and she ran to the back of the house and into the transmission-holding bathroom. everyone turning their heads in unison to follow her run to the little room where she slammed the door. Cleta started to stand, but Irma held up her hand. "Let me, hon," she told her grandson. The old lady, a flower-patterned moo-moo, moved down the hall to the bathroom. "How'd she know where the can was?" Dave asked. Cleta shrugged. "Well, all these trailers are alike, right? She grew up in a trailer on a goose farm up north somewhere." "Oh," Dave said, scratching his head beneath his red cap with faded white lettering barely visible. "But, Dave," Randy interrupted, "just let it be. Can't you see Jimothy's upset?" Cleta sighed, not even bothering. "Dave, don't go down that line of thinking," Randy told his friend, pulling him down so that the man's ear was next to his mouth as he whispered. "But," Dave tried to finish his thought in the same low whisper. "But nothing, Dave, doggone it," Randy whispered. Whisper became harsh. "Quit asking questions nobody wants the daggum answer to." Dave pulled back, staring at his friend, who only gave him a moment while Cleta sat on the bench next to the door and put his face in his hands. "She's been here before," Randy admitted harshly, "just after I lost the wife." He tried to explain, his voice growing lower, barely understandable for Dave, who was inches away from his mouth. "Her real name isn't Charity. That's a stage name, and she needed some money." Dave drew back, again, disgusted look coming over his face, and he grabbed Randy and drew him out the door where the smoker was and went about his business. "What the hell, Randy?" he scolded his friend. "Just 'cause your woman ran out on you ain't no good reason to run off paying for sex." "See now," an old man's voice said from the folding lawn chair next to the smoker. He was drinking the last of the Pabst Blue Ribbon. "This is why you, Dave," he crushed the can, then pointed, "and you," he swung his arm and threw the crushed can at Randy, "are both single." He spat. "You say shit like, 'your woman.' You don't own a woman, boy. Hell, you barely get to talk to them and understand what they're saying half the time." His tone was disgusted. Randy's face red. He stomped his foot. "Now stop it," he growled, his voice too loud. "Both of you, especially you, Pop." He had to stop his breathing from speeding up in his anger. I ain't never paid for that. I needed someone to talk to, and she needed cash. I actually paid her to clean my trailer." "Paid her with what?" his father asked. "Sold some stuff I had laying around," Randy said. "But that's not the point." Randy, you paid her to clean your trailer?" "Yeah." "Well, I think you got ripped off." "Oh, shut up, Dave." "You boys get in here," Irma said, interrupting the argument. "Charity wants to apologize and explain what's going on." "What's she got to explain? I wouldn't marry that boy either. He's ugly as cuss," Dave said. "Just get your asses in here, will you?" she nagged. Once everyone was settled, she looked at the tortured young man who proposed. My reaction, I'm not upset about you or that you proposed, honey," Charity said. "It's just that there's something you should know before you really commit to this." "Oh, honey," Irma said, patting the girl's barrel. "We know you're a stripper." "Granny," Cleta said, standing up to defend his girl. "She's an entertainer, an exotic dancer. She's just down from an actress, really. Just needs a break." Irma rolled her eyes and then patted the girl, who neither had taken offense nor contradicted the old woman. "Just go on, honey," Irma said. "Well, it all started when my parents started their farm, see? Their goose farm. They'd sunk all their savings and my grandparents' savings, both my mom's parents and my pop's parents. See, no bank or business guy would loan them a dime to make this go." Indeed, William and Joanne Travis had held out. Joanne with child until they were on their last dime. The farm full of young geese, yet no buyers for any of the birds. Chinese fowl selling at rock-bottom prices. "How do they do it?" Joanne asked. "Oh, well, I don't suppose they got the labor costs or mortgages or any of that. Government owns everything, including the business and the farms and the shippers, and they can pay their people next to nothing. Her husband had told her, and the banker had agreed. You really should have had buyers lined up before you started this project. But, William had argued, they all said I needed the animals first. The banker shrugged. I'm not a farmer or a buyer, or do I even eat geese? I don't believe I've ever eaten it. The last time, gone for weeks, the couple became desperate and depressed, both resigned in their ruination and the ruination of their respective families, that they had thrown their entire savings behind an idea that did not pan out. Electricity cut off, and Joanne having taken her last prenatal vitamin, they were startled when someone knocked on their door. It was late, sometime after the average supper time. The gentleman that was calling introduced himself as an investor and wanted to discuss the necessary funds to expand the operation, for he had information that news would break in a week or so that the entire Chinese goose population was under quarantine due to a particular virulent variant of the bird flu. So you see, the man in English suit and bowler hat explained, small farms such as yours will be the only suppliers of the fowl. The rich love their fantastic dinners. You'll pay this place off in no time, and we'll both make a hell of a lot of cash in both the short and long terms. The Englishman sat on their threadbare couch and noted the makeshift incubator on the floor in the corner. He nodded toward the eggs. We may even be able to set things up so that when the Chinese decide to recover, they'll be forced to get their breeding stock from us. We'll make millions. And just what do we have to do? William asked, his wife gripping his hand. I'll bet there are 100 little guys like us out there. The Englishman laughed. A D-party laughed. Young, independent, family-owned farm that raised nothing but geese? No, not many at all. In fact, I believe this might be the only one. In the United States, that is. Oh, Joanne said. So we're your only ticket? She asked, excited. The Englishman stood and placed a bowler hat on his head. Young people, he sighed. What? William asked, jumping to his feet, fear filling him that he might lose his only chance of keeping his lifelong dream. Well, he explained, putting the leather driving gloves back on. You see, you are under a misconception. What's that? Joanne asked, her hand on her belly. That we have no other options, the man explained to the couple. I'll admit it would take far less investment into what you have here and a little more money to grow it to necessary levels than it would be to invest and build our own farm from scratch. In fact, the man paused, raising his eyebrows. If I'm able to take a chance and wait until the bank forecloses, I can have this one at a far cheaper price than you mortgaged yourselves for. At any rate. But, William stammered, Mister, I don't believe you told us your name. Oh, the Englishman said, smiling. You may call me Dr. Faust. An unfortunate name, I'll admit, but one that I have had fun with. So what do you want from us? William asked. Not very much at all, the man explained, sitting on the edge of the couch once again. What? Joe, anxious to learn what she could do. Well, just do what you do now, he explained. Raise your fowl and do your best to sell them. That's it? William asked. The Englishman shook his head. Oh, yeah, there's another thing, he said. You see, it's a small thing. I almost overlooked it. What is it? William asked, almost desperate. The Englishman looked William in the eyes, then Joanne, and then back to Williams, and said slowly, You understand that we are going to take a great risk for a lot of initial startup cash to get your expansion begun. And how much? William asked, his and his wife's brains afire with greed, pure, simple greed. Oh, we've done the math for the upgrades plus living expenses and upgrades to the home that you'll need. It'll be about $10 million, give or take a few $100,000. the man said, as if the number was something piddling, pocket change. And what's this small thing? Joanne asked, her voice desperate. A simple thing, hardly anything to consider. He paused. Really? We're listening, William almost demanded. That you swear fealty and sign over all your assets to us upon your death, including the conservatorship of your daughter, he noted, pointing to Joanne's large abdomen. Just what exactly does that mean? Joanne demanded, shaking the spell of greed that had permeated every inch of the room, showing that a mother's need to protect her child was powerful indeed. It means, the Englishman said, sitting back and relaxing with a smirk, that we are investing not just in your farm or your product. We're investing in the family aspect. And if something were to happen to the two of you, your daughter would be your heir, meaning that her lifestyle and choices would reflect upon the marketing of the company product. We just wish to guarantee that the product and the interest of the whole family we are investing in is protected. It all went away over the couple's heads. So what you're saying is, William asked, his face confused as he tried to work out the doublespeak, the paperwork is just a formality that we can protect your heirs from grifters and other dubious people. It's very simple. Oh, okay, that makes sense, Joanne said, nodding, the greed filling the room, taking hold of her once again. So, what exactly do we have to do? The Englishman pulled out a briefcase neither William nor Joanne had remembered seeing. Oh, you just have to sign the paperwork, he said as he laid a copy of the file to the front of each of them on the coffee table. And there's a minor ceremony. Happens at the birth of your child, you know. It's tradition with the old money from the European continent, you see. And it's a tried and true marketing tradition that works for them, gives them hope, you see. It'll be filmed then? The couple asked. Perhaps, the Englishman, that was actually a demon, said as he collected the paperwork. We'll see how it goes. The next morning, the bank had called, confirming funds in the bank, letting the couple know that they had to just come in and sign paperwork. And in only 3 months, the world found this couple giving birth in the back room of their freshly remodeled home. The room just outside the incubation room they had set up. The Englishman sat in a chair in the corner, dressed in a crimson robes and carrying a book that looked much like a Bible, but it was definitely not. Joanne, deep in delirious labor, cursed and groaned. Her voice sounded like the little girl in The Exorcist. The midwife, some young girl Joanne had found in the yellow pages, was all business, but kept glancing at the Englishman with nervous looks, his vestments glowing red in the gloom. And just as Joanne screamed another otherworldly scream, Dr. Faust rose and began reading from his little book. William, terrified for his child, his wife, and himself for some reason, couldn't identify the language the Englishman recited, but it filled his brain, his contract binding him to the act. He would do anything that the demon required of him during the ceremony, and he was sure that the language wasn't Latin. Suddenly the door of the room burst open, and an old man, robed, bespectacled, staff held high, called in a deep, guttural voice, "Begone, spawn of hell! Begone and foul this earth against your foul presence no more!" The Englishman turned to the midwife, grabbed her wrist, and pressed something to her palm and said, "By my power, I bind you. Care for this child. Hold it safe, so that when the time comes for the vessel to be filled, it shall come about. Though the great light of the enemy burns thee to dust." And then he was gone, leaving the midwife kneeling on the ground with a mark burned into her wrist. Puffy and blistered, she could not tell what the symbol was. Joanne screamed again, causing the young woman to stand back up and look toward her patient. The sound was more natural one of a woman giving birth instead of a demon. Sally took a step back away from Joanne. The midwife, eyes wide, the old, stereotypical wizard, holding his staff at an angle, pulling what he looked like a cloud of pure darkness from the woman's abdomen. Once it was all removed, he recited another set of unknowable phrases, and the cloud shot out of the room and left toward the next room in the house.
What's back there?
The old man demanded, even as a little glowing light at his shoulder twittered.
It's our new nursery,
he said, eyes glazed.
We keep the incubators in there.
William was stunned, shocked, or just still under the spell. The old man nodded and moved back out of the room and let the midwife do her job. He returned only after a few minutes holding an egg, large and black, and appearing half rotted. After the baby was born and checked, found to be healthy, the old man stood watching the midwife give the bundle to its father. William had forgotten everything that had even happened at the sight of his daughter.
This egg, the old man said, holds the essence of a demon lord.
Before he could continue, William's eyes grew wild, and when he dropped his daughter and grabbed for the rotten egg, not understanding why or how, and threw it against the wall. A cloud of black burst against the wall, the stench that accompanied it smelling like sulfur and brimstone, and out of the cloud came a bird, large, majestic, pure white, and beautiful. Yet even before their eyes, it began to change.
Stand back,
the mage ordered, and before everyone could gather around the bed as far as they could from the cloud infusing the animal, changing its snowy color to that of coal. A blood-red strip formed around the goose's neck, and it honked a loud, otherworldly honk, then launched itself at William, digging its wings tip first into the man's chest. The old man slammed his staff upon the floor, causing a loud boom, and grabbed the newborn just before it hit the floor, the staff landing on its own, as if gravity no longer controlled it. It stood, stuck in position through time and space. Before Joanne could react and demand her child back from the stranger, the goose embedded its beak into her heart, killing her in an instant. The demon-possessed goose lifted its head and turned toward the old man. "Onk!" It howled and then flew out the window, breaking the double-paned, eco-friendly glass and disappearing into the night. The old mage looked at the little midwife.
"You'll have to take care of the girl,"
he said, gently placing the little bundle into her arms with great care.
"Did you know that what they wished to name her?"
Becky Ann Travis, she said.
"That's good."
He paused, his smile fading.
"Though, keep her safe, call her Charity, for that life she holds is a charity upon the earth, because her life will hold the apocalypse at bay."
"Who? How?" The old man held a book of black leather. She didn't know where he had come by it.
"It's all here," he said, "in the prophecy of the Goose Father, also called Goosifer."
"So, you see," Charity explained in a pleading tone, "when your uncle told us about seeing that black goose..." His mother's slipper hit Randy between the eyes.
"See what you started?"
"Come on, Mama," Randy asked. "I didn't kill her folks, jeez."
"Pop,"
Mother said,
"call the family. It's time for that intervention." And so, things become clearer for the prey and for the creatures in the night, in the dark, that feed upon them. Nox Vini, fear the night.